Hey guys, welcome to the new episode of the Heroes Reborn series. Since I got a request to use my own voice even in these videos, I think I should just do it. In this episode of Heroes Reborn, I would like to talk about Carmilla. Carmilla is a really durable support in the game. However, she's the least used hero in Mobile Legends. I personally like this hero quite a lot due to her strong durability and teamfight supporting potential. Despite being a really tanky support, that itself is actually one of the main reasons why most support players do not like to use her. Most support users tend to support their core hero or the other teammates from a really safe distance. Instead of taking all the fights head on with the enemies, a support often has to reposition themselves pretty frequently in order to stay alive and to ensure that their teammates get the most out of them. However, Carmilla's skill set forces her to be played exactly like a tank, and because of that same reason, she's basically a tank although her official role is only a pure support. Despite being a Carmilla main myself who has got used to playing her the same way like a tank, I personally do not mind changing her to a more effective utility support, aka a ranged support. But if they are to keep her the way she is, aka as a melee durable support, I will be glad as well. Either way, I'm going to adapt myself with the new Carmilla. So now let's look at what we can predict for Carmilla's future according to the latest Advanced Server update. In the latest update, Carmilla's ult is changed to something like Hanabi's ult, where she will create a huge area that has a pretty long range from herself, and then link the enemies later on, where the area will have a similar effect like the original ult. Looking at this change, it is pretty likely that the developers are planning to change her to a ranged support. With that being said, her kit, which is about her being a frontline support, will need to be changed as well, which includes her passive and first skill, because if your playstyle is to be transformed into a ranged hero, no point having two skills that revolves about being a head-on fighter, right? I've come up with a few solutions to make her a really decent ranged support, at the same time ensuring players will have a really fun experience playing her. But again, I want to clarify that I'm not against the current tank Carmilla, and I actually enjoy that playstyle pretty much, but that's the reason why she has a low peak rate despite having a really high win rate. Let's be real, most support players do not like the playstyle. The ones who I mean here are not Carmilla mains, but support players generally. So, let's see how we can make her a popular pick if we are to transform her into a ranged support hero. Let's start by the passive. Basically, the whole idea is to make her a ranged hero, meaning getting a lot of defense from the passive isn't going to be too useful for her as her playstyle will be spamming steals from a safe distance while supporting the teammates. Therefore, I will completely revamp her passive to something else rather than gaining defense stats. Instead, to fit the character design as a vampire, my idea will be to make her passive grants extra lifesteal effect. Yeah, you might be surprised or feel unbelievable about giving lifesteal effects to a support who has low damage output, but hear me out. Carmilla's new passive will still be called Vampire Pact, and it should allow her to place stacks on the enemies, instead of gaining stacks for herself. The mask will be similar to how a current passive look like for you to imagine and visualize it more easily. Each time Carmilla deals damage to an enemy using her skills, a mark will be placed above their HP bar, and each mark heals the teammates attacking the enemies based on the damage dealt, and the percentage will be 2% plus 20% of Carmilla's magic lifesteal. And just like the original server stacks, it can stack up to 5 times. Now, let's move on to the other parts before further elaborating. The first skill, which is revamping Crimson Flower to Sanguine Bats. Instead of summoning flowers that circle around Carmilla and require her to be close to attack and slow down the enemies, Carmilla now summons Sanguine Bats in a designated location to attack the enemies within it. And instead of increasing the attack speed like the current Carmilla, each time the bats attack the enemies, they will not increase their attack frequency, but will gradually expand the area of effect in order to ensure that the skill 1 can easily help Carmilla to apply the max passive stacks on the enemies. If that skill is not strong enough, maybe we can consider adding a vision limit effect for a brief moment when the bats reach the max area, just like how Helga's ult works. But I personally think this is too much. Anyway, it's just an idea. Moving on, the second skill Blood Buff will remain almost the same. However, in order to solve a problem of being too short range, Carmilla will increase the attack range according to the Blood Buff energy accumulation. When you have more energy, the increase in damage and stun time is removed. However, the range will increase by a lot, to an extent which you can reach the backline. Lastly, her ultimate, Curse of Blood. Curse of Blood will remain like how it is in the Advanced server, where she links all the enemies in the selected region, allowing all the linked targets to take 70% CC and damage effects. But with the current long range and wide area status of the ult, it's actually way too OP, and this will make other heroes benefit way too much due to its strong effects. For example, an enemy Valentina can make full use of that and solo wipe out the entire enemy team. and teammates with huge AoE skills are also going to be too difficult for the enemy to deal with. Therefore, I suggest to reduce the ult's base control and damage transmission effect to 20% from 70%. However, each passive mark of an enemy will increase the control and damage effect taken by 10%. In other words, in the end, the enemy link will still get 70% of CC and damage effects just like the original server, provided you have marked them earlier. This is to prevent heroes like Valentina taking too much advantage when copying her ult. So basically, Carmilla's main playstyle will shift from being a frontline tank to a backline support who spam skills on the enemies in order to increase overall teammates' lifesteal effect. And max stacks, when the marksman hits an enemy with 5 Carmilla's passive stacks, the marksman will have a bonus lifesteal equal to 10% plus 100% of Carmilla's magic lifesteal. In other words, teammates can gain a whopping 30% free lifesteal from Carmilla's passive if she builds items like Necklace of Duress and Ice Cream One together. The reason I propose this is because I think Carmilla is a vampire, so she should have a passive that revolves around lifesteal effect, while using that to support her other teammates. And besides, as far as I know, this is pretty original because I don't recall other games having a support who gets lifesteal items. The following is the recommended build. Firstly, any boots blessed with a favor effect, because when using the lifesteal from Carmilla's passive marks on the enemies is also considered a form of healing skill, which means favor can be triggered. Next, it will be Enchanted Talisman for the high CDR in order to spam your skills. After that, you can build Ice Cream 1 for the slow effects, so you can slow your enemies further when they are in the area of effect of your first skill in order to boost your passive lifesteal effect to the maximum. Next, you can also build Necklace of Duress for the anti-heal effect and to boost your passive lifesteal effect. Alternatively, you can also choose Dominance Ice as well for more survivability. After that, Brute Force Breastplate because the new playstyle will be like a skill spammer, and this item can help her boost her survivability even when using a semi-magic build. Lastly, Oracle to further boost the heal you get in order to sustain longer in a fight and also to boost your CDR. With this build, you will have 20% of lifesteal by yourself, and an enemy with full stacks will grant another 30% of lifesteal. If you are in low HP, even if you have low damage as a support, having 50% of lifesteal effect is already more than enough to boost your sustainability. And lastly, I will talk about the possible skill combos. I think with the new skill set, it will be good if you join a fight using the speed boost from your second skill, cast your ult, and while the ult animation is slowly appearing, immediately cast your first skill for the slow effects and accumulate the full passive marks on the enemies. When the ult starts to connect all the enemies in the area of effect, cast the second phase of your skill 2 and all the enemies linked will be stunned for 70% of the original duration. While that happens, your teammates can deal a significant amount of damage and wipe out all the targets in an instant if the combo is executed correctly. That's all for my imaginary concept for ranged Carmilla. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, consider leaving a like and subscribing. That's all for this video. I'll see you in the next one.